All right, good morning. I'm going to talk about the business of woodworking. I get questions from YouTube, from Instagram, from just people that come in the facility, and I'm going to answer some questions about woodworking. So what I have here is I got a piece of paper. I wrote down just a couple of quick little questions. I don't know where the hell this thing came from, but the top says sales increase, brand building material. Then I got register Lotus, broken window. Like, I don't know where these notes came from, but they're on here. And I thought it was kind of funny because it's kind of encapsulates what running a business is. Questions we're going to ask today. What's the most important skill to start a woodworking business? Okay. Question number 2 is going to be, what is the difference between a woodworker, a business owner, and a content creator, and which is best? Right. So, again, kind of a subjective question, but I'll talk about that. Then we got how much do you make as a woodworker, right, or business owner? So we can kind of go into that a little bit. And question number 4 is your favorite tool, technique, or advice. Yeah, so I'll kind of dig into that. So basically, I got 4 questions. Those are the questions that I'm going to talk about. What's the most important skill to start a woodworking business, right? So the most important skill to start a woodworking business is not actually being any good at woodworking. So a dirty little secret about making it in the furniture industry is to make things efficiently and to make things scalable, right? You have to be able to teach somebody else to make something. It has to be scalable, meaning be able to go from making 1 of those a week to making 10 of those a week with minimal problems. Okay, you have to have an engineering structure. You have to have a training regimen. You have to have ways to procure material easily. So there's a lot of skills that are involved in being a business owner that have nothing to do with being a craftsman. You could be the greatest craftsman in the world and you're not going to make any money because no one knows who you are. And no one knows that you're the greatest craftsman in the world except you and maybe an immediate group of people, around your orbit, So marketing, branding is probably more important than actual woodworking, which I know that pains a lot of people that do woodworking, but it's just the honest to goodness truth. It's branding and marketing are probably the most important things. And secondly, after that is managing costs, right? Because it's one thing if you're doing something yourself, right? You can value your time however you want, but when you're paying somebody else, it gets very expensive very quickly. And when other people are running through material, it gets very expensive very quickly. So you, again, have to be able to look at what your people are doing, approach your people, be critical of your people. It's a skill that a lot of woodworkers don't have because woodworking is a solitary thing. It's something that you generally do by yourself. It's a peaceful thing. People don't do woodworking as a group, generally speaking. If I had to say what's the most important thing to start a woodworking business, it would be managing employees and branding and marketing, some version of those 2 things. Because again, you can be the greatest craftsman in the world and it just doesn't matter. Not if you're going to be a business owner. You can always hire someone that can do something good enough, right? It's finding people to do the other things that's so difficult. Okay, question number 2. Question number 2 was woodworker, business owner, content creator, what's best? So this is an interesting one because being that this is YouTube could be considered a heated topic, right? So I would answer the question by posing the question back at you. And I would just say, well, what's the most important thing to you, right? Do you want to learn from the best? Do you want to learn from the most popular? Or do you want to learn from someone who knows absolutely nothing, right? So the woodworker obviously is going to be the most talented, right? It's going to have has been in the game a lot, knows the skills, knows the tips, the tricks, the tools, all these kind of things, all facets of woodworking. They're going to be best when it comes to a technique standpoint, right? If you want to learn from somebody, like if you're going to get a teacher, you don't want to teach a teacher that's a content creator, and you don't want to teach a business owner because they're not going to teach you what you really need to know. That'd be a highly controversial thing to say. The other one is the business owner, right? So if you want to make money, woodworking is a terrible business to be in. Like, are there people that make money? Sure, of course there are. But the vast majority do not, right? There's a reason older people start woodworking, right? It's because they've made all their money, right? They found something that good at, they followed that, and then as they get older in life, they suddenly decide to woodwork. I mean, that's just the honest to goodness truth. Yes, there are young people that get into the game, but it's just the truth. It's generally an older person that's getting into woodworking. They do it later in life, So clearly, woodworking is not a good way to make money. Doesn't mean you can't make money. I did pretty well in woodworking, and I can talk about that if people want. I never got rich, but I made enough money to lead a pretty good life, or what I would consider to be a fantastic life. The other thing is the content creator. So the content creator is obviously a new thing, right? So it used to be the content creator were people like Glenn Huey, right? Like I'm sure everyone's got a Glenn Huey book. They make books with Taunton Press, and they'd be the guys in the magazines. Norm Abrams was another content creator. This Old House. Everyone saw it on television, but there was also a magazine. So the content creation game has changed. The difference is that the content creators back in the day were craftspeople first. Now you have a class that content creator first, craftsman second, which is great. There's a way to make money there, and I would never shit on anybody for getting money. Like, go for it. But it's pretty obvious that a lot of these content creators are making more money with their content than they are with their products, right? So, being the content creator, if you want to make money, I would say the content creator is probably going to be even better than the business owner when it comes to making money. The people that can make it in the content game have zero COGS, right? So if you're a business owner, you know all about COGS, cost of goods sold, and it's everything that goes into producing a piece of furniture or a product. And there's a lot of COGS. My business has so many freaking COGS, it's ridiculous. And I'd be happy to go over that if people want to go over that kind of stuff. But as a content creator, you have almost no COGS. Like, you might have a video editor, maybe. Yeah, you don't have much. You might have some subscriptions for some video editing and stuff like that. Maybe getting some sound, some audio. But that's really about it, So from a making money standpoint, content creator is probably the quickest and fastest way. The business owner is going to make the next amount of money, but you're playing the long game, and you're going to put up a lot of shit to do it. And then the woodworker's not going to make as much money. It just is what it is. Woodworking is a dying art, and hopefully with YouTube, you get a little more exposure on it. You get more people into it, and manufacturing coming back to America may change some of that. I would hope. It's the most rewarding way to make money is to build something. I believe being a content creator, not that rewarding. Being a business owner, not that rewarding. Physically making something you get to see, every week or so is a very fulfilling way to make money. And having done this for going on 30 years, I can attest to it. It's a good way to make money. So question number 3, how much can you make as a woodworker? So that's a little bit of a loaded question, right? But we'll look at it from the standpoint of someone who's not a business owner, not a content creator, strictly makes furniture as a W-2 employee working for somebody else. A person can make nothing as a woodworker, especially if you're learning, right? Like, what's that education worth? I mean, think about it. People go to college, they pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year to go learn how to run a business from someone who probably failed at running a business, which is why they're teaching. On the other end of it, I mean, woodworkers can make 6 figures. If you're very good at what you do and you have a fantastic reputation within specific industries, there is a lot of money to be made. Making fine furniture does not pay that well. Making mass manufactured furniture pays better, believe it or not. But from my standpoint, if you want to make the most money in the least amount of time, you need to get into aerospace. And the reason you need to get into aerospace is it's just the sheer economics of the product that you're selling, right? So if you're selling an $8,000 dresser, your employer obviously has to make some money on that. There's cost to sell that product. If you're selling, say you're selling fixtures to a company like Walmart or Louis Vuitton or one of these nicer places, maybe, like there's a certain cost that goes with those fixtures, maybe $10,000, $20,000. If you're selling to the private jet industry, which is where I came from, you're selling an interior that can cost anywhere from $1 to $7 million, right? So do the math. Some of the pieces that I built, they would sell for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, for little tiny credenzas. Galleys that we would make were $250,000. I used to make galleys for 777s for Virgin Atlantic. 777s for Virgin Atlantic, that would go for upwards of $1 million. So the amount of money you can make on something is probably more proportional to the product that you're selling, when you work for somebody else. So that's something you kind of need to think about. But on average, I would say that woodworking in general is probably a middle class way to make money. You're going to make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, as someone that has, reasonable experience. This day and age, I mean, shit, who knows what it could be this day. wages are going up so much. I have no idea, what it is now. But anyway, it's a good middle class way to make a living. You can have a good life. It's very fulfilling. That's the most important thing. It's the kind of job that you're never going to go home and think, oh God, I don't want to go back to work in the morning, because you're making something cool every day. Good way to make a middle class living. Probably not going to get rich as a woodworker. Definitely not going to be poor though, because there's just not many people doing it. So I would advise people to get into woodworking, because there's always people that need craftsmen. There's always people that need people that work with their hands, that are willing to get down in the dirt and do the dirty work. And the dirty work pays better now than it's ever paid before. And that's a good thing. So this is favorite tool, technique, and advice. Yeah, so my favorite tool is actually just my tape measure. I use a Stanley Engineer's tape measure. It's got hundredths on it. I don't do much in fractions. So yeah, it's literally my favorite tool. Like, it's not a table saw. It's not a bandsaw, block plane. It's none of that. It's literally my tape measure. I use it for everything. I measure things at home. I measure things at work. I measure things when I'm working on my car. Like, it's the tool that you always use, and it's so handy. And I give it to my wife needs a tape measure. I got an employee needs a tape measure. It always gets used, and it's the cornerstone of what we do as fabricators, So anyway, Stanley tape measures. It's the only one I buy. It's Engineering's 12-footer. I tell everyone to use it. It's a fantastic tool. I don't like plastic tape measures. I don't like fraction tape measures, and that's just how I operate. It's a 12 feet's about all you need. Are there times you need something a little bit bigger? Sure, but not very often. We make furniture. We're not building houses. We're not framing buildings. It's just the cabinet maker's tool is a 12-foot tape measure, not a 24-foot or a 16-foot carpenter's tape measure. So, and then technique. I think my favorite technique is not a woodworking technique. The technique that is my favorite technique is the ability to take on challenges, to learn new things, and to embrace the suck, right? Like, so if I run into something that I can't figure out, like, that's when I get crazy. Like, that's when I get excited. I like not being able to figure things out. I like challenges. I like the unknown. I like going into work every day and not knowing what I'm going to work on. So yeah, that's I think my superpower is I get better when things get harder. That's my favorite technique. And advice. So my advice to people would be to cozy up to somebody that does what you want to do. And that's not just woodworking, that's anything. If you want to, learn how to work on cars, like, go befriend a mechanic. Go work for free. Don't try and get paid on the front end, because people don't like that. If you are one of these people that think that your time is worth X amount of dollars because you show up, the kind of people that are craftsmen and the kind of old world, old school type people, like, we don't like that shit. And so my advice to you is, don't do that. Cozy up to someone, learn what it is that they do, and don't take a dime for it. Go learn. If they want to pay you a modest fee to do it, like, great, but if you're really passionate about something, you're going to do it for free for a little while. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with working for little or no money. And it's going to take you a long way, because it endears you to the people that do this kind of stuff. That's the other thing. It's like, people that are craftsmen and woodworkers, a lot of times they learn from old school people. They didn't go to some, new age college and have all these new age techniques, because people aren't doing that. There's no one to teach it. It's not like other kinds of skills and other kinds of education. You're learning from old people that smoke cigarettes and drink beer on the job. Like, these are not people that looking at the latest OSHA regulations and, the Department of Health. Like, they don't give a shit, so be flexible. Don't try and tell these people how it is because, you're on the internet and intelligent. Like, remember, these people come from a different world. They've got a different set of skills. And if you want to take advantage of that and get the money that comes with learning those skills, like, you just got to be aware of your surroundings, So that's kind of my advice is find somebody, cozy up to them, and do it for free. Learn the skills, be helpful, try and learn, be interested. It'll take you a long way. And especially the next couple of decades, like, woodworking and working with your hands is going to become a very important skill to have. It's going to become a very in-demand skill to have, because it's not even that the woodworking side of things or the carpentry side of things. It's that you have a different mindset. You're not interested in the same things that general society is interested in. You think differently because you go to work every day and you're basically in a danger zone all day long, so you're not going to give a shit about the things that a lot of other people care about. So you got to remember that. those are the 4 questions that I wrote out, and I've talked about them. And like I said, I'll try to do one of these videos, every couple of weeks. So put your comments in there. Let me know what kinds of questions you have about running a business, about becoming a better woodworker, all those kind of things, because the business here is the Resplendent Chrome. I'm obviously the Modern Woodrunner, whatever, Eric. We have facility with about 10 employees, 20,000 square feet. We have a paint department, woodworking department. We sell vintage furniture. We make and move about 1,200 pieces a year. So yeah, I know a lot about the industry. I know a lot about all the logistics of owning and operating a business, which is a whole nother discussion. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. And yeah, let me know.